You've just accessed Hardware is Forever, your source for the expert insights, ideas, and innovations you need to do more in the electronics manufacturing industry. From optimization to operations, join us as we put the pieces together for a better approach to manufacturing. Let's go.
Welcome back to Hardware is Forever. I'm Chris Bentliff. Jay Patel is with us, as he always is, the CEO at Amtech, and we're continuing our conversation, which if you've been following along, it's just every step leads to the next step, which is more interesting and sort of aggregate on Deming's 14 points of management. And today's, for me, is huge, and it's a perfect bookend to our last conversation, which talked about leadership and ways of thinking about leadership and old school management versus new school leadership. And that is drive out fear in the workplace. And that's like the biggest sentence of all time, drive out fear in the workplace. What pops up for you, or what are those criteria as they emerge or show themselves when you think about fear in the workplace? I guess particularly as a CEO or maybe at Amtech, how does that personally resonate with you?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about it, but first of all, I wanted to share, I've studied Deming's point. I looked at a lot of other books. I think one book that really helped me out was Transform Your Business with Dr. Deming's 14 Points. It's right here, by Andrew Stotz. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but
there you go.
But anyways, I'm learning from other people, so a lot of this stuff is not original content, but I feel like it's original. It's an original experience for me. And going back to driving the fear out of the workplace is, fear exists because there is this really, really strong fear of emotion in human beings that has allowed us to evolve from living in the jungle and very dangerous places to ultimately now developing the civilization that we're at right now. And in the civilizations, there's a lot of different processes and infrastructure and laws and everything that really helps life function much, much better. So we don't have to be as fearful. But still, fear creeps into us because that is how we are hardwired. So in a workplace, I think when it comes to any type of human interaction, once there is fear in the human interaction, it breaks down completely. However, fear is the first thing that people use to be able to control a situation as well. So it's really, really tough to be able to manage that. And it has to be intentional, it has to be pragmatic, and it also has to be, when implemented, you have to take a leap of faith and saying, I don't need to be fearful in this. And then we, as a leader and as me as a co-owner, I have to state that I don't need fear. I can overcome this obstacle, no problem. Now, that's easier said than done on a day-to-day basis as well. And we all have different weird fears as well. And that's why there's so many different phobias out there. We are inundated with them, and they come to us in different ways. But specifically, it is something that is part of the human condition that we have to really, really fight against. And I think really business is a great place where we can experiment removing fear out of our day-to-day psyche, whether you're a leader or whether you're a team member or a technician in sales, whatever it may be. But when implemented properly, I think it changes the entire quality of life. So it is vital, but it is also part of the human condition. And we know that this is the starting point, and it's not a very good starting point. And again, I guess that's why Deming really starts it out and calls it out as principle number 8.
I read somewhere, and I really like this idea that anger is fear made public. And I think about that sometimes when I see somebody out in the world, or if I'm just experiencing something where I seem to be really emotional about something. If I check myself and say, well, okay, but why? So why is that something? Or you see somebody being ridiculous at a restaurant, you can sometimes you can think to yourself, I know what kind of person that is, and you don't, but you're responding to a situation. Fear at work is often a product of some kind of imbalance, where there's a power imbalance, or there's a dynamic where I I have been made to feel like if this thing doesn't happen in that particular way, there will be a consequence. Rather than an achievement for me to aspire, there's a consequence for me to avoid. What are
Yeah.
some of those? Do you agree with that? And what are some, how do I know? What are some symptoms? I feel like sometimes we know without being able to say I'm afraid. Instead, we know the symptoms. I'm behaving this way, or I'm seeing this, or I'm seeing this in the people that I lead or manage.
Yeah. So I think number one, we just have to be self-aware. Like you said, are we fearful? Does it show as anger? If not, it starts with us first. We need to be able to fix that as leaders first. But number two is, you know, how do we know that we may think that the way that we operate is normal because we just don't know any better, you know. But what are some indicators that we are creating a fearful environment around us? Is one, nobody shares any issues with us. Number two, people cover up mistakes. Number three, there are random breakdowns in quality, and we create what is the opposite of joy in work. If you can observe those symptoms in the organization that you're in, and organization, it could be yourself, your family structure, um, your job. You can even we've all been to fast food restaurants where we know exactly what's going on because we see the food, or not even fast food, any restaurants, that we can see the quality of the food coming out and the quality of service that's there. We know immediately what type of environment they're in. Um, and I think, you know, for those people out there who are in leadership, take inventory of this. Like, are your team members sharing feedback? Do you find them covering up mistakes,
Yeah.
hiding defects, you know, so they don't get in trouble? Not sharing that there's a defect, and leading to constant rework, causes and breakdown of quality. Like, do you see random issues from lot to lot, batch to batch, maybe shift to shift, day to day, breakdown quality? And, you know, are people having a good time or not? And you can tell that. You don't need to be, I don't think we need to be go to too deep of analysis to figure that out or not, but, you know, just see if people are enjoying themselves or not, or challenged, and uh and just be aware of that.
It's interesting how literal the opposite is true. Like when we are thinking about chasing joy at work, which I think that's a fantastic sort of practice, all of the opposite of these things become true. Quality is higher. There are fewer mistakes. There are fewer issues here. There are fewer communication things because everybody seems to be on this same sort of plane of existence, which is, you know, let's not make everybody miserable here. Let's see if we can have a good day today. What's the difference between, or how do you cultivate constructive criticism, which is valuable and useful and necessary, with that idea of creating a workplace of joy? Like, how do you, because I think that especially we've got some generational divides sometimes where well, when I was starting, this is what happened for me, and so therefore, and that's not necessarily how it works now, and it's different, and the emerging workforce has different feelings and sensibilities about some of these things. So how do we keep that focus on joy in the workplace, or at least minimizing fear? And let's talk about some of the things we can do to be better.
I mean, things are going to happen accidentally. Even with the best intentions, things go wrong. And we could even see, you know, when NASA was developing space shuttles for the first time, and even right now, even when space shuttles go, there are accidents, and we can say that, you know, engineers with the best of intentions uh, did not want that to happen, but it still happens. So things will happen. You know, things will go wrong. But I think it's the way that leaders really react to things. And Deming says, be subtle, helpful, positive amid worker errors. So things are going to happen. I don't think we need to, as leaders, we can't blow up. If we do criticize strongly, it will, again, go back to the fear-based work environment. And then we already talked about all the negative things that could happen. And then more than that, it also removes the pride of work. Like, you know, I thought I was doing a really good job. Like, I was really proud of myself. And then as soon as you come down hard on somebody, that removes that pride and that joy that they get from what they're doing on a daily basis. So I think it's just having that humility. Again, going back to leadership, the servant leadership type of not managing, but leading. And then when those things type of happen, create a win-win situation at the end of it.
I think that great leaders are responsive rather than reactive. and they bring light instead of heat to a situation. So they want to show you rather than spend a bunch of energy making you feel a certain way about how we can improve this or that. And this again gets into this great conversation around who are the leaders on your team, those by job title and those who are naturally sort of adept. What has been your friction or challenge or observations or just sensibilities around this same approach with leaders, like the training or the insights that we want our leaders to have? We need them to also feel like work is a place that I really enjoy coming to. I really love what I do every day. It has to be a place of joy for them to be able to articulate that back down to the management styles, right? How do you cultivate that?
So I think one thing is, since we implemented EOS over here, I think we were able to really focus on our culture, and we could create a foundation that people are familiar with and are looking to be a part of. So number one is, what is your management methodology style? What process have you put in place, and have you communicated that so you can attract the best talent that fits within your organization? But number two, I think we just need somebody with a growth mindset. I don't think, there are instances where leaders are born, but leadership is one of those things that can also be learned. And, do the founders need to have these type of principles? Yes. I feel like there is a double standard and there is a requirement. Otherwise, then unfortunately they don't have business being a founder. And I can say that for myself, as I unfortunately did not have any business being a founder because these principles were not fully implemented, and I did not imbibe them and live them. So I think that's the number one thing is if you're not a founder and you have a growth mindset, I think that's what leadership is looking for. If you are a founder, you better study these and make sure you can build a really great organization with it. As management, that's all we really look for is somebody with a growth mindset that will work with us and imbibe our values and imbibe these values so we can grow together. Like I said, core values, purpose, if it matches, culture fit, great. If not, then we can change. And ultimately, not everybody has a unique skill set, and not everybody maybe want to become a leader, be born a leader, because their efficiency or their skills lie somewhere else. And that's fine, because we're all just leaders and just motivated people, wanted to motivate people, and we all just try to motivate each other. Like, who's going to do the work? We do need people who can leverage their natural skills to do what they need to do. So we have to find people who have those innate abilities, that growth mindset. And then once they're there, we need to cultivate them to become, and again, reach their full potential, which is part of leadership.
And I think this again gets into this conversation about process and structure and systematization. I think a lot of times people are afraid at work because they don't know what they're doing, or they don't understand the expectations that have been set for them, or they weren't trained on this thing, but last week you said to do it this way. There's when we are seeming to making this up as we go along, we open up a lot of avenues for confusion and conflict and frustration, and sort of my personal preference was that you would have done this, but I see that you did it this way instead because we didn't have a standard operating procedure for that. Everything is kind of related, right? So as the leader, you, Jay, the CEO, has to be thinking not just like how's everybody's fear quotient today, but also, have I told you how to do your job? Have I given you the resources to do it well? Do you feel like you understand what's expected? I mean, there's a domino effect to this whole thing.
Yeah, and stability is definitely there. As leaders, we need to bring a stable environment. We need to have stable objectives. As leadership, we need to have one voice, and we need to execute on that. Like, everybody wants stability. Like, everybody knows the sun rises. That's why we're never worried about it. Like, we know the sun is going to rise tomorrow. And we need that stability. If we didn't know the sun was going to rise tomorrow, would we go to sleep? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what we would do. If we knew the sun wasn't going to rise tomorrow, it was a maybe, our actions would change significantly.
That's a great illustration.
So I think, like, as leaders, we need to create a stable environment, provide the resources, provide an environment and vision that people have faith in, make sure that our objectives are clear and not conflicting. Like we could have a leadership meeting, the 5 of us get together, we decide what we're going to do. And then, Bob goes, it's like, okay, I'm the production manager. These guys don't know what they're talking about. We want to work on these 3 things, but they're all wrong. I'll show them that they're wrong. And I'm going to go work on these other things. And I go out there and say, hey guys, are you working on these objectives? No. That's because Bob told me I need to do this. Like, no, don't listen to Bob. Listen to me. Okay. So then they don't know what to do, right? They're stuck in between. So I think just building that type of clear communication, clear objectives, and then removing unqualified managers from leadership like Bob. I'm sure Bob is a great guy. Bob will excel in different areas, but he may just not be the right fit for Amtech and where we want to go today. So we want to remove those type of managers and individuals from the organization. And if we can do that, that really sets us up for success. And if we can't, those are those underlying causes that may not be really, we won't be able to see them, but there are subtle issues that will add up to developing a fearful workplace.
Jay Patel is the CEO at Amtech, and as always, shedding light, not heat, on these interesting issues. And I so much appreciate all of the little isms and stories that you have and analogies and illustrations that help me understand this stuff better. Thank you. I'm looking forward to our next conversation down the road, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And a special thanks to our subscribers and followers. Consider becoming one today wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Hardware is Forever is designed, tested, engineered, and built by the manufacturing experts at Amtech. Learn more and let us help you envision your next project with a free Design for Manufacturing assessment at buildamtech.com/DFM.